The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
So we're entering the 6th week of war with Iran. And I still can't determine exactly why we're even there. Tonight, we discuss war. Iran. Yeah, it's about that time, fam.
President Trump speaking at the White House in this news conference that
Thursday night, an American F-15 fighter jet went down deep inside enemy territory in Iran while participating in Operation Epic Fury, where we're doing unbelievably well at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Both members of the crew ejected from the aircraft and landed alive. On Iranian soil, I immediately was asked to make a decision. But in the United States military, we leave no American behind. We don't do it. So in a breathtaking show of skill and precision, lethality and force, America's military descended on the area, the real area, engaged the enemy, rescued the stranded officer, destroyed all threats, and exited Iranian territory while taking no casualties of any kind. The heroic F-15 weapons system officer had evaded capture on the ground in Iran for almost 48 hours. That's a long time. Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation.
This was a no-fail mission.
What the hell was that? It's so obvious that Donald Trump is out of his depth. It seems to me like I'm more prepared for this press conference, this live stream, than Trump was prepared for the press conference. What is he even talking about? He's saying things we don't need to know. Things that are irrelevant to the average, citizen. And it just feels like he's saying it to just throw a whole bunch of random details at us to make us not focus on the fact that a lot of people could have died and there's no real reason for that to happen. So you don't wing war. Donald Trump sent out a very disrespectful Truth Social post on his website on Easter. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped into one. Iran, there will be nothing like it. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Open the effing Strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. All capital letters, just watch. Exclamation point. And then he ends it with a cherry on top because he didn't feel like he was being disrespectful enough. He threw Allah in it. Praise be to Allah. He followed up later that day with a more precise deadline. Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the deadline for opening up the Hormuz Strait. And if not, bye-bye bridges, bye-bye infrastructure, bye-bye power plants.
Because they're very good bullshit artists. That's why for 47 years they've been bullshitting other presidents and they haven't done the job. And people are living in hell. You live in that country, they're living in hell. No, I think that 47 years of this stuff is long enough. They're at the weakest point they've ever been. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weaponry, they have no radar, they have no communication.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the question. Deliberate attacks on civilian infrastructure violate the Geneva Conventions and international law.
Who are you with?
I'm with the New York Times. Zolan from the New York Times. Are you
failing?
Are you
concerned? Circulation way down at the New York Times.
Are you concerned that your threat to bomb power plants and bridges amount to
No, not at all. No, I'm not. I hope I don't have to do it.
But when he starts talking about important things that really matter, and he's like here, the New York Times asked a question like, dude, it violates the Geneva Convention to go after some of the things you're talking about targeting. Why are you talking about doing that? I mean, even when Israel does, when it violates the Geneva Convention, it doesn't say it's going to violate it like you're saying you're going to do it. They could, you can't go oopsie when you say you're going to do it. Does this kind of communication strengthen or weaken America's position? Because remember, everything the President of the United States does on the world stage to other countries who have guns and bombs impacts not only us, but the entire world. When Trump's talking, other people can react based on what he's saying. My question to you is, first question, does this kind of communication strengthen or weaken America's position? How does this help us?
Yesterday in your Truth Social, you called the Iranians crazy bastards.
True.
What is your response to critics who say that...
I don't care about critics.
What is your response to critics who say that it is your mental health that should perhaps be examined as this war continues?
I haven't heard that.
So what do we know about the Strait of Hormuz? The oil and energy prices are the biggest immediate shock. Listen, the Strait of Hormuz normally carries about 20% of global seaborne oil and a significant share of LNG, liquefied natural gas. So after the closure began in early March, this has triggered one of the largest oil supply disruptions in history. Fam, this will be in history books long after we're gone. So the oil prices, Brent crude has surged past $120 per barrel. Gasoline, U.S. average prices have climbed significantly with reports of 50-cent increases in some areas, with regional highs nearing $4 to $6 per gallon. Places like California. Higher diesel and jet fuel costs are also feeding into broader transportation expenses. So if you're flying anywhere, the oil costs more, so the flight costs more. That affects anything that gets moved. And what gets moved? Everything. It's oil and fertilizer. U.S. farmers are catching heat. The region supplies a large portion of global urea and nitrogen-based fertilizers. Key inputs for corn, wheat, and other crops. 50% of the global urea flows through or near the Hormuz Strait. So if you shut down the strait, we can't get other things that are needed besides oil. Price spikes. Urea has jumped 30 to 60% since the conflict escalated. 400 to 500 a ton to 580 to 800 a ton in various U.S. markets. This hits right during planting season, and much of the U.S. farmers face higher input costs for fuel and fertilizer, squeezing their already tight margins. What are some of the wider economic ripple effects of the Iran war? Inflation and growth. Higher energy and shipping costs are pushing up inflation expectations while slowing growth. We're looking at stagflation, where high inflation and low growth. We got global versus U.S., Europe, and Asia. Heavy importers are feeling sharper pain, but the U.S. is not immune, especially agriculture, transportation, and consumer goods. Other sectors impacted: aviation. Aviation disruptions, higher insurance, shipping rates, and volatility in financial markets. Then we got long-term risk. Prolonged closure could tip economies toward recession. Short resolution might see prices ease quickly. Two more things before we get to Tucker. Tucker's going to rip Trump a new one.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology. Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. And we should never mock that, because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God. The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way. This is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah without explaining any of it, you are mocking me and every other Christian because we're Christians. We can't support that. That is evil. That is an intentional desecration of beauty and truth, which is the definition of evil.
I like the ending though. Yeah, you're making a mockery of everything, and this is bullshit. There's repercussions for this. This is not about personality. It's not about petty differences of opinions about people's presentation skills. It's not what this is about. Nor is it about claiming somebody has dementia. He's a very coherent, unhinged person at times. I don't think he's mentally declined at all. That's bullshit. Biden was mentally declined. Trump is just winging shit too much.
Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. We've got 50,000 soldiers in Japan to protect them from North Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea. Japan didn't help us. Australia didn't help us. South Korea didn't help us. And then you get to NATO. NATO didn't help us.
Maybe they didn't help for a reason, dog. If they don't feel that it was in the best interest of their country to attack Iran, then that's a good move on them. It's like, maybe consider the reason why no one else is doing it with you is because it's not to be done. It's because you can do whatever you want to do doesn't mean it's the thing to do. At some point, you got to admit that when a person is leading your country, that you just can't be like, well, that's just his way. You know how he is. He's unconventional. You know, he shoots from the hip. Nah, they're shooting from the hip and it's being damn stupid. They're shooting from the hip and it's being reckless with other people's lives. Yeah, it's shooting from the hip and it's being a lunatic. That's different. What if you're deployed? What if you're your son or daughter who just wanted to go to college? So they signed up to one of these armed services shit. And now we got Trump in there, willy-nilly just doing shit. Yeah. Now, funny now, huh? All of a sudden, things got really real. It's okay to criticize Trump as much as you would criticize Biden. It's okay. In fact, if you don't criticize Trump, someone's got to, I got to wonder what's wrong with you. I mean, credibility is important. Don't give your credibility up trying to defend this. This is indefensible.
I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
We've been going to war every minute for the last 30 years or so. We've had both administrations in office, and it shows no signs of slowing down. So we'll find out tomorrow about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if the world ends. That's how that looks.
Catch Tim Black live on the most dangerous show in America, Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. Don't miss out on the real. Stay dangerous.